Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Gerv and Big Mo. This is Ricky Hampton here, along with Paul Mokeski and Derrick Gervin. Excited to be back on the air this week and kick it around with these two fellas and talk a little basketball and sports and whatever else is going on. Paul, how you doing, my man?
Doing great, man. That's a great intro, man. That looks
Brother,
sweet.
thank you. I practiced that all week, man.
How's it going, D?
I'm doing great, sir. How about you?
Just trying to stay somewhat cool here in 115 degrees in Las Vegas, Nevada.
100, you complaining, man? Hell, well, I guess you can. It's only 107 here today.
Hey, but the heat is dry, right, Paul? Isn't that heat dry?
Heat is heat, man.
Absolutely.
Hey,
guys,
Ricky.
Yes,
Ricky,
sir.
I wanted to kind of start off on a different note before we get into the show.
Absolutely.
First, I want to welcome everybody and thank you for tuning in again. This has been a blessing for me doing this show with Paul and Mr. Ricky Hampton. But I want to start off, we always talk about the men a lot, and today I want to start off, I want to give a shout out to Kara Lawson for being the first woman coach ever, the Black first African-American coach in the history of Duke basketball. And I want to congratulate her for that. I think that's something that needs to be mentioned. And I'm very proud of her, and I'm very proud of Duke as well for giving her the opportunity.
Yeah, what a great opportunity and what a great position to be in, especially, with Coach K there and being able to maybe mentor a little bit and the history of Duke basketball. That's not, a low-level program, that's for sure.
Yeah, they were they have been a NCAA tournament team for a while now, and it's going to be fun watching her down there on Tobacco Road. There's some great rivalries down there, as we all know, with North Carolina. So go Cara, good luck to you, sister. Go get them. And speaking of going to get them, guys are headed to Orlando. Well, everybody's in Orlando now.
Not everybody.
Great point, Paul. Great point. Some of these guys will soon be getting there, we hope. But the restart of the NBA season starts July the 30th. That's 16 days from now. I think it's the 14th.
17 days. Yes, 13.
Yeah, 17 days. And we already got some news. We got news that Russell Westbrook has tested positive for COVID. He says he's doing well and he hopes to rejoin the team. The Lakers are dealing with an injury to Rondo. I'm wondering what impact you guys think that'll have on the Lakers' chance and just your general thoughts of us about to restart this season.
Well, I would say about Rondo that karma's a tough one. Isn't he the one that called the hotel room he was in, Motel 6, about a day before he broke his hand down there? Maybe karma got him. I don't know. What do you think, D?
Man, I like Rajon Rondo, but I don't put a lot of substance into a lot he says. As far as the injury, I think it'll impact him somewhat, but this might be another chance for Alex Caruso. And, we'll get into that later on, start talking about the inside of the game. But, yeah, I think it's just been weird for Rondo. They say sometimes you reap what you sow, so it's best not to say anything, man. Just go out but I hope he gets well, and I hope he's able to come back and contribute.
I don't know, man. I saw a picture of his room. He must never have stayed in a Motel 6 like we have, because it don't look like that.
And guys, tell us about traveling in the NBA. I mean, it's always been first-class accommodations, at least in the modern era of the league, I would think.
Well, I mean, even like D has done it. He's a little younger than me, but even back when I was, in the 80s when I was playing, I mean, we flew commercial. We were when you play back to back, you have to take the first flight out, which is usually 6:30 a.m. We stayed at Sheridan's or Marriott's if we were lucky. That's nothing. Those are fine hotels, but it's a different ball game now. When I was with the Dallas Mavericks for 5 years, I mean, You fly on a private jet. You get fed on that jet. You get off. They load your luggage. You get to the Four Seasons. You go up to your room, and they bring the bags up there. You don't even carry your shoes anymore. Heck, we had to carry back to back. We had to carry our uniforms on the flight. And here's something that'll blow people's mind. If there weren't enough first class seats, some players didn't even fly first class. They flew coach.
Wow.
So if you were a rookie or a younger player, you might not get a first class seat. So you gotta fold yourself into a coach seat back in the day. And now, you landed in regular airports. You got your bags. You got on a bus. The rookies got your bags. Now, you're in private airports. You're on private jets. You don't even touch your bags anymore. So, and you leave right after the games now. Travel is a lot different. So instead of staying after and leaving the first thing in the morning, you get out of there, usually wheels up by 11:30. So depending on where you're going, you'll be sleeping in your Four Seasons bed by 2 in the morning, get up for a nice breakfast and be rested for the game the next day. Back when I played, you had to get up at 5 in the morning, get to the airport, get to your hotel at noon, and try to take a nap before you played. So it's a different ball. Travel's totally different now.
I just got a hard time seeing Dr. J traveling coach.
Yeah, I mean, everybody. Dr. J never traveled coach unless there was no first class. I'm telling you that right now. But rookies and young guys, and then it was a big
Ricky,
thing.
why you laughing?
What did he just said about Doc?
Hey, Ricky, he paused. I had to work my way up to first class. Serious. Back in our day, we had 12 players. And if there's only 10 available seats, then the other 2 players, where are they going to sit?
Yeah. And remember, sometimes the head coach wanted to fly first class, right?
Yeah.
So that's
that's
another
what I'm saying. It's a numbers game. Hey, but I'm going to say this, man, and today is a great day, and I'm feeling good. We're going to keep it light, and I'm going to say this. The only people hurting by the travel, and yes, I'm saying it, are the groupies. Excuse me. Because I'm being honest, because Paul, they used to us in our day. If we played on Friday, we might stay and not to leave till 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. And today they getting right out of there. So it's a different time, but it gives the players more time to bond together, to become more of a unit. So out of every dark cloud, there comes a silver lining. So it's something good coming out of this.
It's amazing. Go ahead, Paul.
The private jets, the Mavericks have their own. The Knicks were the first ones. Portland, and the other teams fly on private jets that they rent out. But just the fact that there's more room to spread out, and you can ice your knees if you have to after a game, and you get treatment after a game, and you can relax and actually lay out and get some sleep. It saves players' legs and their livelihood for a long time.
So you're saying this mode of travel extends careers?
Absolutely, no question. And combine that with the treatment they're getting with, the compression, leg compressions, and the ice and the massages and so we're at an airport. We're eating airport food, right? They're on a private jet eating whatever healthy stuff they want, pasta, steak, whatever. It's there for them. Usually before a road trip in the NBA, they give the players a list of what they want to eat on the upcoming trip, and they fill out what they want to eat, and then they have it on the plane. So it extends careers greatly by doing that.
I'm a perfect guy for that subject we're talking about, Ricky. Remember, I had worked my way into becoming a starter with the Nets when I became injured. And I didn't try to pursue the NBA after that. When I came back, I had to make a decision. My back was hurting so bad. And as Paul said, we sat up in the airport like everybody else. We had to wait 2 or 3 hours sometime for our flights. And I want you to think about the guys with back injuries that have lower disc problems. That's a major issue. And I got to the point where I basically couldn't walk. Jaren Jackson and Pete Myers had to actually carry me into one of our hotels. It had gotten that bad. But when you have the way they travel now, you can be worked on, as Paul said, as they're traveling. there's so much more that goes on that brings into it today that could extend your career. And I wish we had those things, but we don't. So I'm glad to see these guys continue to make progress.
Yeah.
I'll give you a great example. Larry Bird's career would have been extended 2 or 3 more years if they flew like they do now, because he had a back just like that, and he quit because of that too, D. And if he would have been able to travel and stretch out and get work done in the flight, he would have had another 2 or 3 years in the league.
You know what? And first of all, I want to welcome everybody, all our viewers out here on the Gerv and Big Mo show. Our great friends Skip, Eddie, and Linda have your greatest fan, Paul Linda, has checked in, and so is our good buddy Nolan. Hey, we're taking your questions and comments. We'll be reading them out over the course of the show. But you mentioned Larry Bird, and we just don't talk enough about him today. What do you guys think made him clearly a skilled guy? But he didn't seem that athletic, although I think he was more athletic than he got credit for. What made him special, Paul and Derrick?
Well, he was really tough player, smart, and had skill. Great passer, great vision, great basketball IQ, could shoot it really well, could score it with either hand. Hell, he scored 38 points left-handed against Portland one time. Road trip. Can you imagine that? He was bored on a road trip and told the guys it was the last game of a long road trip. He said, I'm going to shoot all left-handed this game. And he did, and he scored 38 points.
Ricky, you laughing. I'm going to tell you this on my life. Because of Bird, I actually played a game, and I was lucky. My right hand was hurt. I scored 22, I swear, but they were mostly layups. But just guys like him. And I'm going to tell you what, me playing guarding Bird, wow. Where do I start? Strong, not muscular, but strong, deceiving strength. IQ, Magic Johnson, LeBron James. Shooting, Kevin Durant, George Gervin, Steph Curry. Ball handling, handles very well enough to get to his spots. Could see the floor, sees everybody on the floor. He knows where they should be. He knows where they're getting ready to go. And I'm telling you from guarding him, I guarded him, and Chris Morris and I were at one time, we got stuck on him at the same time. And I told you guys, we ran out there, he was already talking. And when he shot the ball, I'm being honest, no exaggeration. When he shot the ball, I never even looked back till I got past half court, because I knew it was going in. But the guy is just a guy that they never talk about his hunger. He should be mentioned in the same breath with Kobe and Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, as far as just their hunger. And that's what people never talk about Larry Bird. I guess maybe they slight him because he was with Bird and McHale and Dennis Johnson, but just his hunger and wanting to get better. That's one thing he continued to do, was get better and to improve. And that's the Larry Bird we saw.
I heard he was a notorious trash talker. Did you guys catch any of that?
I just told you. Hey, when we were running at him, he told Chris Morris and I, and this is the truth. As we're running at him, he yells, "This is on the both of yes." This is on the both of yes. I'll never forget it. I'm like, who is this guy? I said, I'm a Gervin, man. He didn't get the memo. I'm a Gervin, man. You can't be talking to me like that.
Especially with that little mouth and that raggedy mustache too. He was talking to you. I'll tell you two stories. I won't get too deep into it. Both were in the playoffs, and one year we were playing well against the Celtics, and Paul Pressey was guarding him and doing a good job on him. And one reporter came out, and the headline was Paul Pressey, the Bird Tamer. And that was the end of that. And the next game, every shot he took, Pressey can't guard me. He can't guard me. And he pointed at a timeout. He came out and said, Pressey, I'm telling you, and I'm telling the whole, right in front of our bench, I'm telling you, I'm going to shoot a three right here next time down. And he did. And he made it. He said, no, you can't guard. You ain't no Bird Tamer. You can't guard me.
Hey, Paul, Ricky, I want our fans to hear this. Paul, I'm sorry to cut you off. I got to say this. Have you ever heard a player that told his own teammate, "You only scored 56, man. If I had an opportunity, I would have went for the 60." And then within 10 days, he comes out and he gets 60. That's phenomenal.
Wow. I mean, the great Larry Bird. I always cheered against him being a Pistons fan, but I just admired the way he played, man.
I'll tell you one more quick one. We were playing in the playoffs. The year before, we swept the Celtics, and we lost the Sixers in Mo's full year. And Larry was not happy. So we played. We were battling them, and we had a game in Milwaukee at the old Mecca, and it was a tie game, and they had the ball with about 8 seconds left, and he came deep in the left corner, and he shot the ball, and after he released it, he left the floor. He left the floor and went into the runway into the locker room. He left. So just think about this. So if he misses, he has to come out of the locker room, out of the runway, and come back onto the court. How embarrassing. But of course he made it. And years later, Kevin McHale told me by the time they got off the floor in the locker room, Larry was undressed in the shower with a beer in his hand saying, "Where you guys been?"
Hey, Ricky, before you welcome the fans, can I go off subject just for 1 second?
Absolutely,
and Paul,
man.
don't you get mad at me because you know I love you. I looked at a video today. This for all the fans. At first, I'm gonna say this: Skip and Eddie, when I'm gonna become your friends too. But let me transition to this. Watch the video today. The first guy, I watched a Charles Barkley video. The first guy I see on the video today, Ricky, Mr. Instigator right here, my partner. Tell him, Paul, about.
I didn't touch anybody. I didn't do anything.
Paul and Barkley had an altercation, and I never would have known. And I mean it was the first video on there, Paul. And I'm gonna tell you how I felt, man, because I got drafted by Philly. When I saw the incident, I was ready to run out on the court and fight Charles through the screen, man. I'm your guy, man. I just want you to know that.
Okay, what happened, Paul?
I had to pretend. It was on TNT, I think, and Shaq protected me and gave Charles some crap about it. But we faced off and threw a couple punches, and Charles got me one good, and then they split us up. And I had to tell D that he was mad. He thought he got a cheap shot, but actually I had got him with an elbow in the ribs the play before, so I deserved it. But here's the crazy thing: there was no foul called, there was no technical, there was no ejection. There was just stop it, and we went on playing.
That's the NBA of that era. Am I right, Paul?
That's the way it was, man.
Wow. Hey, we definitely want to welcome our viewers into Gerv and Big Mo. Hey, if you got any questions or comments, please check in with us, type them in. We'll talk about them. My good buddy Thomas Stanley is watching tonight. What's up, Thomas? Getting back to the upcoming NBA playoffs, the guys are down, they're in a bubble, which I think is probably one of the safest places you can be in America right now, in the NBA bubble. So I think that will work out for them. At least I hope it does anyway. But, we've been hearing grumblings about the hotel rooms. And a couple of guys, I think a couple of guys broke the quarantine and they got to go back into the quarantine. But that's good to know, because that tells me the NBA is serious about these guys following the rules. So the teams that have good attitudes about this and the teams that grumble, does all that factor into winning playoff games, guys?
First, let's talk about the bubble. First of all, there is a 113-page manual that all the teams were given about the bubble, right? 113-page manual. And to have a player break out of the bubble less than 1 day after being in the bubble is ridiculous. And I put it on the player a little bit, but I put it on the team. I mean, you need to sit your players down and say, these are the rules, and here's what you got to do, and you can't break these, because if that happens in the middle of a series and a key player has to sit out 8 days or 10 days, you could lose a series. So it's mind-boggling that a player in less than 1 day breaks the bubble by accident, and goes out of his room, because the rule was the first 48 hours in the bubble, you have to stay in your room and you get your food delivered to you, and they went out of their room. But there should, and you're right, Ricky, the NBA is serious as all get out. And, whether they would do that with the main player or not, I mean, the guy's a draft pick from I think 6 years ago that's played in the G League. But anyway, the bubble is serious, and you wear a mask. I think the coaches have to wear masks when they coach. If you test positive, you're taken away, and you got to stay away for 10 to 12 days, and you get tested, and all kinds of things that happen. So hopefully the teams learn from this already, that they can really inform all their players that this is no joke. And I don't want to hog all this time, but the TBL, for those of you that don't know, is the TBT is the basketball tournament, the $1 million tournament, and they're the first to have their bubble. There's 24 teams in the bubble, and they've been in the bubble for over 2 weeks now, and it works. Here's the numbers I'm going to share with you. Out of 450 players to go to that tournament in Ohio, in the TBT tournament, 450 players had to get tested before they went to Columbus into the bubble, and 34 tested positive, so they couldn't go. That's 7.5%. Then after arrival, out of 370 players that were in the bubble after arrival, 6 tested positive. That's 1.6% of the players. On day 3, 0.06 tested positive. On day 4, 0.03, and from day 5 to day 11, no positive tests. So the bubble works if you stay in the bubble. So I think the NBA is learning from that, even though they have a much bigger scale. They have less teams, but more people involved and way more games. But that shows them that on a minor scale, the bubble works. So hopefully it will work for them if they hold to it.
I'm more on the Dame Lillard mode. And I hate to be that way, but there's always going to be, out of 10, there's always going to be, usually, I won't say always, but majority of the time, it's always going to be one that just won't do the right thing. This guy from Houston, I don't even know his name. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but he's not
Bruno Kappa.
Kappa. He claims he didn't know about the rule, but everyone was told clearly. Every player, everyone in the organization knew the rules. And it's sad because, like Dame said, I know there's going to be someone that's going to violate the rules. And the sad thing, I'm going to say this, I believe there's going to be someone else. And it's sad. Ricky, you asked how this factors into winning. To be a winning team, you got to have all your oars in the water. And it doesn't take but 1 or 2 guys not to buy in. That's something that you don't have time to be dealing with. When you're trying to win a championship and you're trying to secure your legacy, every step counts. And that's what people forget sometimes. If I do a math test, we got 10 questions. I want to be a perfect score and I only answer 9 of the questions. I know I'm not going to get a perfect score. So I got to do the things that are necessary to make what I want to happen. And it's the same in the bubble. You have to sacrifice. I don't want to hear the young guys talking about this as something new. It's something new for all of us. You need to go ahead and follow the rules. I read something today on Facebook. One of his doctors was talking about if everyone followed the rules for 3 weeks, that we might be back to some normalcy. We'll never be back to 100% normal, But if everyone does what they're supposed to, the quicker we get back to not having to be quarantined. And that's what people need to understand. That's not just the players, that's the fans, the management, everyone involved. And let's make this happen so we can get back to enjoying the game and having a sellout in the crowd, the gym being full. That's what I want to see.
And to piggyback on that, the teams that stop whining, accept their situation, and toughen up, and just focus on basketball winning are the teams that are going to be in the finals and the teams that are going to win it. Now, talent's going to have something to say with it, and chances too. I mean, God forbid one of your good players accidentally, on purpose, whatever, breaks the bubble in the middle of a series, you'll lose that series. And that's on him. But the teams that put all the excuses aside and all that, those are the teams that are going to shine in this situation. And it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. And, the teams with the mental toughness like that and the togetherness and the teamwork to say, hey, even though I'm the 10th guy on the team, I'm going to hold my end up. Those are teams that are going to be successful in this different time.
And that brings to mind for me a team nobody really talks about, but they're the defending champions of the NBA. That's Toronto. I understand why people don't really talk about them because they lost their best player to LA. But Toronto has seemed to embrace this whole thing as well as anybody, Derrick.
I said the last week that we did the show that this is up for grabs. And I said earlier today, and I mean it. It's going to come down to discipline. And Nick Nurse, man, I can't tell people how I admire Nick Nurse. Right now, for me, I have him at the top of the coaching chart. And the reason is because you don't hear any friction going on in Toronto. Kawhi, it's like Kawhi was never there other than the championship. They keep it going, man. The guy just continues to run a smooth ship. Him and Ujiri, man, they deserve so much credit. So when you have a team like that that's bought in like that, and they're not worried about being superstars, like Siakam averaging 27, but he's still just a common player, common guy, and that's how he plays, they're always going to be a team that's dangerous.
They've been down in Florida for 1 or 2 weeks longer than anybody. You haven't heard a peep out of one of them. I think they're down there for a purpose. I agree.
Hey, Paul, Derrick mentioned Nick Nurse. You know, he took over for Dwayne Casey, who was the coach of the year. But he came in and took him to a championship. And Derrick called him possibly the best coach in the NBA. As a former coach, what makes a superior NBA coach opposed to a coach who isn't getting the job done? Now, I know all these guys know X's and O's and know the game of basketball. What do you think separates the great coaches from the so-so coaches?
Well, first off, let's get Coach of the Year off the menu because you can't even imagine how many Coach of the Years get fired the year after they were Coach of the Year. It's crazy in the NBA. But and I know Nick Nurse personally. I was on the staff in Great Britain with him as Chris Finch was our head coach for the Great Britain national team for 3 years. I had many battles with him in the D League, now the G League. He is one of the only coaches that have won a championship in the D League / G League with 2 different teams. And he's a great basketball mind, and he's been around. He's had a different tour. He was in minor leagues and European leagues, and so he's had a different journey. But at that level in the NBA, you need to have talent. Number one, if you don't have talent in the NBA, you're not going to win. But then the secret is to get that talent to play together for one purpose, and that purpose that everyone sacrifices for the team. And that's very, very, very hard to do. And that's why, coaches like Popovich and Steve Kerr and guys like that know how to do that are successful. But it's very difficult. A head coach in the NBA is a coach, a father figure, older brother, a nice uncle, a disciplinarian, a shoulder to cry on. And he's got so many moving parts that it's ridiculous. So it takes a lot to be at that level. And the guys that do all that and have a great staff and trust their staff to do their job are the ones that are successful. And players that buy in. That's so important. I mean, Doc Rivers is one of the best coaches. Everyone knows that. But the job he did in Boston when he had Paul Pierce, one of the staples of the Boston Celtics for years, and he brought in Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen as the big three, and he got them all to play together. He did that before the season. He had them all together, all together to meet before the season started. Said, I can't do this alone. Not one of you can do it alone, but we can do it together. And they believed in that. And those are the great coaches.
Can I say this really quick, Ricky, why I got him as the best coach? Do we have time?
Go, yes, absolutely.
Brad Stevens. All right, they had problems with Kyrie. Miami, Eric Spoelstra, another one of my favorites. They had problems with Deion Waiters. Popovich, the Spurs. They had problems with Kawhi. These are all the guys. Doc Rivers has had little problems. He with the Rondo situations as they went. Rondo didn't get along so well. Now I look at Nick Nurse. You don't hear any rumblings coming out of Toronto. I haven't heard one complaint this year, and you would expect to, because you would expect someone to feel like maybe they weren't catered to last year like they should have been. They were kind of brushed aside because Kawhi got all the accolades. And this year they come back like they haven't missed a step. And for that, to me, all the little intangibles is what makes him the best coach to me. I'm not saying that he's the best coach. I'm saying he's the best coach to me.
And you agree with
I'll tell you a little secret too. You want to know a little secret? In my opinion, the hardest league to coach in the world is the D League, G League. And it's for this reason. You have 18 players in camp and everyone wants to be on the team. And when you make your cuts and you have 10 players and that's your final roster, none of those 10 players want to be on your team anymore. They want to be in the NBA, not on your team. So that's problem one. Problem two is you have players, you brought a group of players together. You have starters and role players and backups. And then in the middle of a season, in a month when you're rolling, your NBA affiliate will send you 2 players that they want you to start now and play all the minutes. So 2 of your starters are now backups and 2 of your backups are not playing anymore. And you don't know how long that lasts. It could be a week, could be a month, could be a month and a half. And you have to keep those other players interested enough that they can hang on and not whine about it. So when the NBA team calls those guys back to their team, those guys can fill back into their spots they just had and go on winning and being successful. That is very difficult to do. And that has helped Nick Nurse with losing his best player from last year and still carrying on, I believe.
That's a great point, Paul. That's a great point. And I'm assuming the NBA club could care less if that disrupts your roster, your system in the D League.
Hey, Ricky, I got to send a quick message out to some of my Facebook friends who think I know nothing about basketball. If you notice today, they've been talking about Ben Simmons. And as you know, Ricky, I've been dealing with you now since 2018. I've been talking about Ben Simmons being moved off the ball and a guy named Chris Paul helping that team. And you asked me last year what was the problem? I told you leadership. They needed leadership on the floor. How ironic now. 2 years later, they're moving Shaq Milton to the point guard. That's all they're practicing right now and playing Ben Simmons at the 4.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely searching. They have been somewhat of an enigma as a franchise. You know, you got a very talented center in Embiid and Simmons. That was supposed to be the winning duo. And then my man from the Pistons, I can't think of his name right now. Tobias Harris, excellent player, but they still hadn't seemed to find that combination. And some people talk about coaches. Some people look at the coach in Philly, Brett Brown, as the reason this team hasn't gelled.
Well, I think, I mean, coaching in the NBA is tough, and you have about a year and a half to get something done. And if you don't, you're usually gone. And he's been there for a while. The process has worked up to a point, but it hasn't worked like it's supposed to work. And just because you have pieces that you think work together on the whiteboard in your office doesn't mean they work together on the court and off the court, and their personalities don't blend. And then it's time to make a decision. If they don't fit, pick one and get rid of it and try to find another piece that fits better. That's my opinion.
Hey, do you think, Paul, the disciplinarians last a little longer? Like this guy in Chicago, I won't even say his name, Mr. Punch In, at the players punching in. Guys like that, do you think they're giving a little more of a rope? If you've had a team that hasn't won in a few years, will they give someone like that extra leeway?
I think the opposite. I think when things don't go well and players complain to the upper staff, that ownership takes the player's side way more than the head coach's side, and it's easier to replace a $3 or $4 million a year coach than a $10 to $15 million a year player. So the coaches are the ones that go, and it's been more and more that way. And a lot of NBA teams are now looking for coaches that are more relatable and or friends to the players, which is good or bad, but that's what the way the game is going.
I got a question about that, but I do need to read some of these comments. Our Facebook page is filled with comments tonight. We appreciate everybody checking in. Skip said you would have whooped Charles Barkley if they wouldn't have broke y'all up, Paul. So
that's my guy.
And Thomas was asking about Westbrook testing positive and what will the chance he will actually be able to compete. And they do expect him to recover.
Hey, Ricky, wait, let me say this while you're on Westbrook. Now, as you know, and I'm glad that gentleman brought that up. What I'm worried about now is, we had to delay the show 30 minutes a couple of weeks ago with John Lucas. Westbrook was working out with him every day. So my question is now, if Russ has it, who else has it? Is John Lucas? Are we going to be hearing that later? So that's an excellent question.
That's a great point. They're
testing him. We certainly wish our great friend Luke well. Hopefully everything will work out with him going down.
Where's Harden? Where's James Harden?
They haven't said.
Where is James Harden?
I don't know. Didn't travel with the team.
Our friend Kayvon checked in talking about Nick Nurse is the best coach in the NBA. He and Big Mo go back to Great Britain and the national team there. And Chris Finch should have let Nick Nurse lead that program. So, yeah.
Easy there, guy.
Don't get carried away. But I want to go back. I want to ask you guys a question. You were talking about coaching, and this has been really interesting to hear the insight on coaching at the highest level and how you guys had to deal with the coaches, how they had to deal with you. Does X's and O's mean anything? Are all these guys so good with the X's and O's that it really depends on talent and getting guys to play together? Are guys, did you ever see anybody get out coached?
Sure.
Go ahead, Paul.
Sure. Yeah. X's and O's are important. And you have to know what you're doing or the players won't believe in you anyway. There's less plays run now, but more actions. And by that, I mean, instead of a play with 5 or 6 different movements, there are 1 or 2 quick movements, dribble handoffs or pick and rolls to a skip pass and things like that. The game's a little faster, but you have to have a system and you have to have plays you can rely on. And as a coach, you need to know when to call those plays. And, as a coach, when I coached, I always wanted to know what what plays got what players the ball where they needed to get it, and I asked them that a lot of times. And then when I wanted to get a post up or an ISO or a pick and roll, all that comes into play, and the players have to believe in you. And after timeouts, plays are very very dependent on getting a good shot and situations. I mean, you look at the TBT tournament. I was watching the game the other day in the semifinal, and a coach called a timeout when they had a chance to win the game. Or if he would have just let the guy finish the play and finish the transition, he called a timeout before that could happen, and then set up a play. It didn't get executed, and then the other team went down and won the game. That's a coaching mistake, and they can cost you games. Players win games for the most part, 90% of the time, or 95. But a good coach that knows his X's and O's and knows his team can win you that extra game or two that gets you to the next series or hopefully a championship.
That's great stuff. And before I go to you, Derrick, I remember you telling me once, Paul, that an NBA player will know 15 minutes into practice if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yep, and they have the feeling they know, and then if they don't have trust in you and think you know what you're doing or spend the time on your craft, it's all over. It's just a matter of time.
Derrick.
Paul is actually, I've coached on the AAU level, the young kids, Ricky. So for me, it's different. Coaching is very important, but I try to teach the guys, the kids, the girls as well to be flexible. You're going to run all these plays when the coaches, set all these patterns up. And at the end of the day, the defense is going to know the play as well. I need players that say we're in a building like at the Gervin Center, George Gervin Center. Some coaches only going to look for that one exit. I'm the kind of guy that's going to access the whole place and look for all the exits. It's the same in the game. At some point, those defenses, it's going to come down to players that can make plays out of the offense, players that can break down the defense. That's the reason I said this year is up for grabs. A lot of these teams are going to be rusty now, and the coach can do whatever he wants, but it's going to come down to players now that can make plays. You can give me every play in the world, but if I'm not able to do the play or be flexible enough to find another way to make the play work, we're in trouble. So yes, coaching is important, but the player's IQ is very important as well.
I agree. But getting out coached doesn't mean just at the game. Getting out coached means your preparation before the game and your practice time and preparing your players for any opportunity that comes up. If you're a coach and you have a great last second play and you don't practice that and just draw it up for a game winner, you're not going to win.
True.
So you could get out coached months before you even play somebody if you don't prepare your team.
That is great stuff. You're watching Gerv and Big Mo with former NBA players Derrick Gervin and Paul Mokeski. Great question here from Carl Newman. How much does a head coach rely on his assistant coaches, and who do you guys think is the best assistant coach in the league?
Well,
go ahead, big fella.
Yeah, there's different levels. Like in the NBA level, you have all assets you can use, and you can hire tons of coaches and guys you trust. Trust is the number one asset of a coach in the NBA because there's so much going on with players and front office and agents and all backstabbing that can happen. So you have to trust those people, and those people have to be knowledgeable that you trust because you can't cover everything. So most NBA coaching staffs have someone that kind of focuses on offense, and someone kind of focuses on the defense, and someone kind of one or two guys focus on player development, help them get better. In college, it's pretty similar, and the head coach oversees everything. But in high school and in AAU, like Diaz, your one coach is all that. You have to do all that. So I think it's at the levels, and there's some great assistant. I was an assistant coach in the NBA for 6 or 7 years, and There's been some great coaches coming out. There's some great assistants. There's some assistants that were great assistants that never got the head job that they deserved. Jack Sikma, Patrick Ewing, Chris Finch, who's with New Orleans right now. Great coaches, great assistants. Patrick's now got his job with Georgetown, which is awesome. But, there's just great coaches out there, and there's only limited number of NBA head jobs and, even college jobs. So there's so many great coaches, and it's hard just to pick one.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. Assistant coaches, though, Ricky, they are very important because they spend more time with the players than the coach does. The coach just comes in as the CEO, basically. These guys are in the front line, as they say, and they're there with the players all the time, developing what Paul talked about earlier, the relationships. And it's usually these are the guys you call, you talk to. As you heard me say about 15 minutes ago, John Lucas was working out Russell Westbrook. So these are the things people don't know, the behind the scenes things. The assistants are very, very important. And I'm going to say this because there are three, we got a lot of great assistants, but these three have bided their time. I would like to see Jock Vaughn get another opportunity. I would like to see Brian Shaw finally get an opportunity. And I'm not naming them because they're African Americans, because there's a lot of Caucasian coaches, great ones. Emi Udoka for the Spurs.
He's great.
And then I'm gonna name a woman, and she's Caucasian, Becky Hammond. I am ready to see these people get an opportunity. I know it's time, and Paul, I'm gonna say this, and I'm being straight. It's time to move some of these coaches, these older coaches. I love them. They've had their time, but it's time for a new breed. Give some of these young coaches an opportunity to come into this game. These guys have coached for 30, 40 years, and I would hate to see them go, but they've built their legacy. I'm not saying throw them out the door, but get
Popovich out of here. Popovich, get out of here. Becky, you're in. Pop, you're out. D told you. D said this. Popovich, you're too old. Get the hell out. Doc Rivers, get out. But I think, and it's coming. And one of those names you mentioned, D, has got a job. Brian Shaw is hired as the head coach of the G League development team for the youngins, which is a great spot for him. He's an awesome coach.
You're watching Gerv and Big Mo with former NBA players Derrick Gervin and Paul Mokeski. My name is Ricky Hampton. We're heading towards the home stretch, fellas. As usual, things are flying by. And I'd like the conversation about the impact of a coach and how he can help a team win a couple extra games in the NBA. Do you think coaches have a bigger impact on the collegiate level at the big time programs?
Wow. Can I take this one first, Paul?
Yep.
I'm going to be quick. Oh, man, it's different, Rick, because in colleges, some of these coaches seem to have their own agenda. And I know college is all about recruits. So, I used to think about Calipari and some of these guys, man, and I wondered about some of these coaches. Man, that's a hard answer. I love the college game, but it's not like the NBA. I think some of the coaches could care a little more, and other than not just getting them for recruiting and bringing them in to build their program, their basketball program. Start bringing these players in to become adults. That's going to help make this a better society, and that's part of what we need to be focusing on. It's not just the skill, the basketball. We always say that there's more to life than just sports. We're also teaching life skills, and that's what some of these coaches need to understand. It's not just about the program winning basketball games. It's about these young people winning in life.
Yeah, I think there's college coaching and NBA coaching is like night and day, totally different, apples and oranges. College coaches coach a system. They have control over what's going on. They bring in the players. They let go of the players. In the NBA, general managers bring in players you might not agree with. Agents come, salary cap, can't get rid of this guy. College is more coach oriented. NBA is more player oriented now. And the problem with like D, I agree. College is where players, I did, and you probably did. I became a man in college. I mean, not only on the court, but off the court. I learned how to live by myself and survive and you know, and become a man. And unfortunately, in college nowadays, that doesn't happen because it's mostly one and done or two and done. They're all gone. So, you know, no one stays for 4 years to get the growth that they should have, at least at the top level. You know, and in the NBA, you know, there's so much, like I said, I mean, we didn't get into salary caps and agents' favors and, you know, general managers having their own idea what should happen. So it's a totally different animal in both those things.
Kayvon had a comment about Jack Sigma. Big Mo, Jack Sigma really benefited the defensive aspect of Jonas Valanciunas' game during the late going of his playing time here in Toronto. Another center who excelled in the sport during his career, much like his old teammate Jack Sigma, understood the role or position of the basketball center better than anyone. Yeah, Jack Sigma, man, with that little step back. You talking about their face. I never saw anybody block that shot.
Behind the head.
I used to guard him in practice. Maybe so mad. He shoot that thing back over his head. I'm like, and then even though he's slow as hell. Yes, I said it, Jack. You're slow as hell. But he would give you that fake and then get by you that one dribble and then lay it up. You're like, man, how did he do that? But Jack is a special assistant for Toronto for the last 3 or 4 years and has had an impact on that team in many ways.
It's sad. He's one of the most underrated players in NBA history.
Yeah,
he was that good.
A great NBA player. Is he a possible NBA coach candidate, Paul? Could he run an NBA team, Jack?
Absolutely. He only got one interview with the Rockets in his whole career, and like D is saying, the game is changing and younger coaches are coming up. And once you get that look, that bubble for a head coaching opportunity in NBA, that window closes fast. And I've told young coaches this. Once you're on that list, you know, the Knicks or the whoever's hiring, you're on that list, you're getting interviewed. That only lasts about 1 or 2 years, maybe 3. And then if you don't get hired, you're bypassed. You usually don't get hired ever again as a head coach. It's happened to a lot of coaches, a lot of them.
Hey guys, we only got a couple of minutes left here on Gerv and Big Mo with Derrick, Gervin, and Paul Mokeski. There has been basketball going on, and some pretty good basketball over in Columbus, Ohio, with the TBT tournament. And we got the championship game tomorrow with the Golden Eagles versus Sideline Cancer. And what I hadn't been able to see all the games, but the games I've seen, guys are playing hard. And I think I know why, Paul.
I think $1 million will do it. Winner take all of it. Here's the other thing, though, Ricky, and I agree. There's $1 million. For those who don't know, it's a winner take all $1 million tournament. And the players are high-level players. Former Joe Johnson, former NBA All-Star, has played, but they're mostly European high-level players that are making good money overseas that come home for the summer and play in this tournament. So it's high-level basketball, and there's not many egos going on out there. When you got one team going for $1 million for one game, tomorrow night, one team is going to win $1 million. You know, all the egos go out and players do whatever it takes to win. And that's what you're seeing.
Hey, Ricky, let me tell you, Paul, right quick. I'm in a quandary in this tournament because Alvin Robertson, you know, as you know, is a very good friend of mine, and his son is starting for the Golden Eagles, Elgin Cook. And for Sideline Cancer, I did a camp with a young man in, I believe, like December, Marcus King, who's been the best player on Sideline Cancer. So I've watched him play in high school and grow up and to be a friend of Alvin. So I just want to see a good game. I can't pick a winning team, but I'm gonna tell you this: I'm rooting for Sideline Cancer because of what they're representing and them donating money. But I'm just glad this has been a fantastic tournament, and I just whichever team wins, I just wish them the best, and I want to give them congratulations today.
Yeah, Mo Charlo's on the Golden Eagles also. He's a former player of mine in Reno. He's a UNR guy, and you know, watching those players give it all on the floor. If people out there haven't watched that, you need to watch the game tomorrow night. It's something special that you don't see, where all the money's on the line for one game, and you want to see some good players playing hard basketball like the good old days. This is it.
Yeah. Hey guys, you know, we've had leagues akin to the NBA. Both you guys, besides playing the NBA, spend time playing in the CBA. Is there enough talent in America to have a version of the CBA? I know we have the D League, but even after the D League, is there still more basketball talent out there where you could have a league that maybe plays opposite of the current basketball season?
The only question is who would back them, Ricky? Because with this G League, they got to get who's going to be their sponsors would be only possible hang up, because the NBA, you know, with them doing this G League stuff, how are they going to get their visibility? If they can.
I'm just saying, talent wise.
Oh yes, more than Ricky. This what, man, we have we the basketball country still. And people don't ever forget that. We see a lot of European players improving, but yes, here in the United States, we have more than enough players to make that happen. And I hope someone piggybacks off your idea right there. I think that's a fantastic idea.
There's been a lot of people trying a lot of years to do that. The talent is there, no question, absolutely. But the right people with the right amount of money to back them has not happened since the CBA days. And, you know, it would take someone to step forward, have a great game plan with real money behind them. I'm talking about $800 to $1 million to make a real league be viable here in the United States. And,
Ice Cube, where are you? Ice Cube.
He's already lost millions on the big three, man.
I'm talking about make the transition.
Yeah. But you know what? I tell you, the level of play in the CBA was outstanding. Clearly, there were always NBA players there. A lot of guys went back and forth. So I'm sure it's there, but you know, the will for somebody to.
I've been every league, any alphabet league in the world. If anybody out there really wants to do this right, contact me. I know exactly how to do it. You gotta have some money though. You gotta have real money.
That's Big Paul Mokeski.
That's
guys,
right.
This hour has just raced by. It has definitely been a great show. I have really enjoyed the conversation about NBA coaching. A lot of good inside stuff there. And it's always great. You guys are so knowledgeable about the game of the basketball and your NBA experience. It's great to be able to share this with the fans. And I really look forward to my Mondays, fellas.
Ricky, can I poke off the air? Can I say, I don't want the fans to be confused, because when we started this show, the intent was to sometime have guests, and other times we just talk about various sports. So probably next week, I'm saying it now, I'm sure Paul and I will come up with a good guest. But what I appreciate is all of you tuning in, whether we have guests or not. And the show is continuing to grow, and I want to thank all of you, because without you, there is no us. And I mean that sincerely.
And please, we appreciate all of you, and please share it with people and friends, and the more the merrier. We'll try to keep answering your comments and questions, as many as possible, and do our thing for sure.
And please like us on Facebook, Gerv and Big Mo. Until next Monday, gentlemen, it has been a blast. Good night, everybody. God bless.
I love you guys, Ricky and Paul. Y'all have a great night.
All right, take care, fellas.
Take care, fans. Y'all have a great night.